Gotta keep running. Gotta keep running. Come on. I can keep running. Oh my god. Come on. Oh, God. Gotta keep running. Oh, God. Can't stop. Gotta keep running.
Anyway... Akira Kurosawa. As the director of Rashomon, Ikiru, and of course, Seven Samurai, he stands proud as a filmmaker that non-cinephiles, such as myself, pretend to know. I wonder what he'd think about his influence today. I mean, after he'd finished weeping at the shoddy state of contemporary cinema, but at some point he would catch wind of Sucker Punch, and their new game, Ghost of Tsushima. This game was always in the background for me. I knew of it, but it likely got pushed behind the warring factions arguing over The Last of Us 2. However, I was hyped, as Sucker Punch are best known for the Infamous franchise, with Infamous 2 being one of my favourite games. So it's fair to say expectations were high. There was a part of me that wanted to blow up Mongolians with lightning powers, but a more realistic side of me wanted something new. Something I hadn't seen before. Something innovative. I got neither, but damn did it look nice. Ghost of Tsushima takes place on the island of Tsushima. Yep, real place. During the late 13th century. 'Tis the age of honour, tradition, and samurai! That is, until those rowdy Mongolians show up with their anarchy, barbarism, and just a general disregard for the cultural norms. You are Jin Sakai, samurai and nephew of a prestigious general. However, after your uncle gets captured and you're near fatally wounded, you start to learn that honourable duels are but a dying fad. Now you must embrace the taboo subjects of stealth, trickery, and dishonour to defeat the Mongols. Right off the bat, the game makes some interesting choices. First off, you have the option to play in English or Japanese with subtitles. Yep, that's right, the sub-v-dub war has now come to video games. You can also play it in what is dubbed Kurosawa mode, which shows the entire game in black and white with a film grain. Now that sounds like a really neat idea, but I question if emulating a vintage style goes well for a game like this. Similar things have been done before with games like Cuphead, but that could pull it off because it was an indie run and gun, which let it take more liberties to feel genuinely like a rubber hose cartoon. For an HD high-resolution AAA PS4 game, it ends up feeling strange, like you're watching Citizen Kane in 3D. I do appreciate the attempts at authenticity, but it feels like something that should have been a post-game reward or an achievement like it was in Cuphead. Having it from the start just makes me think Sucker Punch want to break their artists' spirits by invalidating their colour grading. Regardless of your colour preferences, it's undoubtedly a gorgeous game, and it does make the most of its setting and time period. It's used beneficially to the story as well, making it feel like a tale that could only be told in this time. Since unconventional fighting is considered blasphemous by samurai, the stealth mechanics and assassinations have more impact on Jin as a character. I mean, you've got the stealth takedowns and the sneaky base liberations that have become commonplace through games like Far Cry or Assassin's Creed, but here it's integrated into Jin's character arc. You get the sense that every time he does it, he moves further and further away from everything he and his family believe in. It's the little things like that which give the setup of your standard open world that much more potency. Oh, and this is a standard open world game. In fact, it's probably the closest we'll ever get to an Assassin's Creed game set in feudal Japan. Though credit where credit is due, they do have some minor innovations. You've got your bases to liberate scattered across the map, but rather than copy-pasting them like in, say, Spider-Man, they've got some variety to them. Some are hostage situations, some require specific objectives to be completed, like destroying ammo stashes, and some of them require you to take on a warlord general in a 1v1 duel. There are also occasions when you can perform a standoff with one enemy, waiting for the right moment to strike, which is awesome and classic Kurosawa, but it's rather redundant if there are 5 other guys with him afterwards. I mean, when you're about to be swarmed, it doesn't feel like the duel contributed to the grand scheme of things. Not unless everyone wants to form a queue. It also has the Hollow Knight mechanic, where you must hit enemies to gather up your resolve bars, which are used to restore your health. This works really well, as it encourages combat, and it means you can't just stick up on health potions. Because, as we all know, nothing fixes a clean slice through the chest like a hint of determination. You've also got the wind on your side, quite literally in this case. Instead of arrows or signposts, the wind blows in the direction of your objective, and you simply follow it until you've reached your destination. It is a really nice approach, allowing for a better relationship between the player and the scenery. Watching the trees, leaves, and snow blow in a particular direction as opposed to a giant arrow marker is rather scenic. Though, fair warning, you will have times when you're about 20 meters away from your destination, but you can't pinpoint the actual location or person you need to talk to. The wind just assures you that they're vaguely in that direction. It's a change that looks nice, but fundamentally it's less practical. It's basically the same mechanic we've seen before, but vaguer with extra steps. Also, neither the wind nor the map help you find a specific person, like a nearby swordsmith, so you spend most of the time running around aggravated wanting to trade the wind in for a minimap. Yeah, I know, it wouldn't have been realistic or artistic, but frankly, neither is sensing every Mongol in a 10-meter radius with the feudal equivalent of detective vision. I don't believe that realistic graphics work for video games, because the novelty of high-quality textures or environments wear off over time, and all you're left with are the core mechanics and gameplay. Let me give you an example. I remember being blown away with Uncharted 3 when it first came out. Its graphics and its detail captivated me into thinking how malleable the environments were. It made me think I could climb on anything and that everything was of use. Then, cut to a few hours later, and I'm going, alright, look, where are the outstanding bricks? Where are the yellow pipes? Where are the yellow ladders? Just anything yellow. Having realism as a selling point also means that when the AI messes up, it's more detrimental to the immersion. For instance,
Oh my god. Gotta keep running.
my point is, I'd rather have flawed graphics with great gameplay than great graphics and flawed gameplay. An example of the former is Infamous. An example of the latter is Ghost of Tsushima. Innovations to gameplay include samurai stances. You can switch between 4 different stances, each of them have heavy attacks effective against a certain type of enemy. Fine so far, but keep in mind you have to essentially pause the game each time you want to change the stance. Now, imagine that while you're surrounded by 8 guys with different weapons. Actually, don't imagine. Here's what will happen. You pause and change your stance to fight the shield guy. Okay, now the spear guy's charging at you. You pause and swap your stance to fight the spear guy. Okay, now the shield guy's charging at you. You pause and swap to fight... Okay, a guy with dual swords just stabbed you from behind. You pause and swap... Oh, you died. This will happen a lot. So often that I actually turned it down to easy mode just to get through it. I always felt like the game could have benefited from 5 difficulties instead of 3. I mean, easy is just a piece of piss, and normal is unrelenting. I imagine hard mode is just a 10-second clip of Jin committing seppuku. However, Sucker Punch recently released a patch for the game that contains an even higher difficulty setting. See, Jin? Isn't that a nice thing to add to the... What are you doing? Jin, put the katana down. We talked about this. Seppuku solves nothing. No! They've also added a low intensity setting, giving you more time to react and greater space to heal, which I do appreciate, but it can only be done in easy mode, which doesn't address my issue, which is that there needs to be more of a gradient between easy and normal. What the patch did was make easy mode easier and gave a harder hard mode. But I do appreciate that Sucker Punch are keen to make improvements, so if anyone from Sucker Punch is watching, thanks for the effort. Also, that glitch is still there, by the way. I checked. And to be fair to the combat, you can get the hang of it with time and experience, but it fundamentally feels like a fast-paced game using slow-paced mechanics. Also, it won't stop you getting screwed by the same 3 enemies that screw you in every game. The archers, the heavies, and the goddamn dogs. You have some tools at your disposal like kunai and smoke bombs, but they're incredibly limited, and the game suffers a lot from wrong button syndrome. You try to change your stance or parry in a pinch, but you end up accidentally using your only smoke bomb instead. This leads us into the game's stealth. For a game called Ghost of Tsushima, with a story focusing around using deception and more cunning tactics, the stealth is rather lackluster and adds nothing new. In fact, there's even less variety than there are in similar games. You can't tag enemies, you can't throw rocks, you can't even do window takedowns. I mean, a Mongol poked his head out of a window, not knowing I was right below him, and I couldn't do anything. I could legitimately hear Ezio Auditore shouting at Jin, going, "Just to stab him! He's right there! What is wrong with you? Mamma mia!" Again, it suffers from having mechanics that are nicer but less practical. Distraction objects can't just be stones or whistling, they now have to be constructed chimes. I feel like a rock would be a better starting point than a chime for an amateur ninja. It made me yearn for games like Horizon Zero Dawn, where you could whistle to gain an enemy's attention and then give him a cheeky slit in the bushes. And frankly, I think when a game about robot dinosaurs does stealth better than you, something's gone wrong. There also isn't much you could do to improve at the game's stealth. I mean, you can upgrade your insta-kill stealth dagger for all the good that'll do. It says it makes it quicker and quieter, but I can say with certainty it did neither. The core problem of Ghost of Tsushima's gameplay is, much like Jin, you're trying to be a samurai and a ninja at the same time, and those are very different things. Except rather than swapping from one or the other, you're always half and half, meaning neither can flourish. I legitimately thought there'd be much more innovation, especially on the stealth mechanics, since the setting and story are ideal for it. But currently the mesh of the two is like sneaking in a first-person shooter with an LMG. Overall, I did enjoy my time with Ghost of Tsushima. It is undeniably a beautiful looking game, and I would unironically call its ending purely cinematic. Seriously, it's legitimately incredible. I wept, and I wanted to applaud it just for that alone. But I was disappointed when it started to feel like a chore to get through, especially when Sucker Punch have succeeded at great gameplay before. If it still sounds like something you'd enjoy, and maybe you value the world and story over gameplay, then Ghost of Tsushima is for you. But for me, as someone who sees gameplay as the king of a video game's hierarchy of needs, it left much to be desired. Ghost of Tsushima's story and world are as swift as a coursing river, but its gameplay is as clunky as a ravine with a beaver dam and a bicycle in it. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to Tom for all the drawings. I'm part of a joint venture and we are new to YouTube, but if you want to know more about us and the stuff we make, check out our channel intro in the description below. And please like, comment and subscribe for future content.